All of the views and opinions expressed here are those of the individual speaking and may not be representative. All of the views and opinions expressed here are those of the individual speaking and may not be representative of Coding American. At times, language may be considered vulgar. Listener discretion is suggested.
You are now listening to the Koenig Behind the Wheel podcast.
What's going on? I'm Scott from Koenig, and with me is Jared from Koenig.
What's up?
We're both from Koenig, and it's good to see you. Thank you for hanging out with us for a little bit. If you're coming from the Instagram Live and the Facebook Live, welcome. Thank you for moving over. We appreciate it. And you can start throwing questions in right now. We will.
Yep.
We promised a Q&A session. We will deliver. So throw your questions in now, and as we get there, we'll be happy to start running through those. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind throwing us that like, that subscribe thing, please hit the subscribe thing.
And turn those notifications on so
Yeah.
you know when new content gets
We
released.
live for subscribe buttons.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Anyhow, today we don't have a guest today, but we will have a guest next week, so make sure you tune in for that. Today we're going to be talking about hub rings. Now, you could look at this as a selfish ploy to pitch you on buying hub rings. Do it. But that's not exactly why we're doing it. There are some things that we want to talk about with hub rings. We'll talk about them, and also we'll make the announcement that you've probably already seen on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't, my friend Alex here will, well, he may not do anything right now because I didn't tell him to do it before. But there is a video on our YouTube channel that talks about the announcement for our hub rings.
And the importance of them. I'll move this over so you can talk about the plastic ones because they come in aluminum and plastic. What's special about the plastic ones?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's special, but I think we need to talk about. Let's run through because we're going to do some hub ringy stuff, and we're going to be talking about what their purpose is, et cetera, et cetera. First thing is, hey, what's going on? Scott Hollingsworth. What's happening, man? You getting ready for the race season?
We are flying on by the seat of our pants today.
Feels good. So, I know I'm coming in with a bunch of stuff here. So, let's see. So basically, here's the deal. When it comes down to hub centric ring, the purpose is to make sure that you basically take up the slack, the space that would be found between the wheel bore diameter and the hub diameter. And so what happens is when you don't have a hub ring, and most aftermarket wheels, they're drilled 73.1 or maybe some various other sizes, but they're usually larger than the bore diameter of your hub. And the problem that you run into is that when you put your wheel on the car, you don't really have a good shot at getting the wheel perfectly centered on the hub.
Which is important.
Yeah, which is crucial. And here's the thing: it's not a safety or a structural item. I've heard people say this. It's not. It is essentially a dowel pin. It's an alignment tool. It's just there to make sure that your wheel gets perfectly centered on the hub. Now, why is that important? Well, primarily it's ride comfort. Primarily it's to reduce vibration. And what we mean by this is, can we rack in a little tighter? I feel like seeing the door is weird.
Oh, on us?
Yeah. Don't you think so? Door, window. It's weird.
Oh.
Anyhow, with that said, the job of the hub ring is really just there to make sure everything's centric, and when it's centric, you're not going to experience vibration. When you have a situation where the hub ring is absent and the wheel is not perfectly centric to the hub, what happens is the wheel no longer travels in a perfect circle. It goes in a more elliptical type pattern. And so instead of rotating, in a circle, now it's like traveling in more of an elliptical pattern.
Regardless of the fact that, technically speaking, all 5 lugs are torqued down properly and the wheel is secure to the hub, right?
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
still.
Yeah. So that's a good point that Jared made. Again, the reason it's not safety or structural is because of the fact that it's one of those things that it is bolted to the hub.
Right.
You know
but
what I
there's
mean?
still that physical empty space that you need to occupy.
Well, you tighten the wheel down when it was kind of off kilter,
Mhm.
so it's retaining that placement, right? Now, the issue that you run into in many times is that when you go to bolt on your wheel, you've heard of people use this term, lug centric. I'm sorry, it doesn't really go, okay? And so when it comes down to the lug centricity thing, what they're basically saying is that on the seat of a lug nut, because most aftermarket wheels are tapered seat, that when you seat the lug nuts down, that it will kind of centered on that lug seat on each stud, and essentially you'd be getting the wheel perfectly centered. The problem is there's some variables there. Exactly the way a lug nut is machined, exactly the way a lug seat is machined, how much space is in the lug hole of the wheel, and how much space is left because every car's thickness of the stud, right? It may have a 14 millimeter stud, a 12 millimeter stud, is different. And when you have those differences, you now open up variables for the wheel not to be perfectly seated, right? Yeah. Not to mention that the wheels and tires as an assembly, they have some weight to them, even in a lightweight condition. And when you're not in the best leverage point to properly hold the wheel to the point where it's as close as you can get it while you tighten the lugs. So naturally the weight wants to shift down because of that good old thing, gravity, and it wants to be at a different spot. So it's naturally you're in a disadvantage to even having a shot at getting it close there. So that's what a hub-centric ring would do. That's why it's necessary. Let me talk about plastic versus metal. So I'm going to talk about these things, and then I'm going to run through, and I'm going to talk about our hub rings specifically. Now, again, this could feel like a cheap plug. It's not. We made these rings because people ask us all the time about hub rings, which ones I should buy, and then there's so many vast differences of hub rings on the market. There just are. Like, there's a lot of different variations of the same thing on the market. Most of them are almost fairly identical. Even our rings, some of the things we've worked into these rings, you could find them in other rings. But when you suggest them, like when people say which ones to get, we don't review hub rings, but these hub rings we have, made sure that we spec'd out and developed, and we brought them in very specifically.
Well, it almost reminds me of like the repeated question we get about spacers. Like, technically, we are not supposed to recommend spacers, but if we theoretically made our own spacers, which we would never do, then, that would be a reason for us to sort of...
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I think the variable of spacers also has to do with, fitment, correct installation, and then it has to do with the fact that you're not only getting a quality piece, but that the wheel specifically that you're putting on is machined correctly to accept that spacer or that hardware, right? And that's where some of the variable sometimes comes in. Anyhow, so let's talk about plastic versus metal. Actually, you know what? Let's do a few questions. We'll do a few questions, and then
Yeah,
we'll pop back.
it looks like we got a whole bunch.
Alex,
so.
would you mind giving me a little? Let's see. Wait, no, you don't have to move it because I think we're okay. Scott, let's see. When you say the oversteer in opal color looks silver, would you say the over? So, all right. So the oversteer, as far as a color, one of our sales guys actually says it pretty well. He says it's like a wet look silver. So it's kind of like that. It's a hair darker. So it's not so. It's definitely darker than a silver. It's lighter than. Let's see. It's lighter than a graphite for sure, but it's darker than a silver. I'm trying to think of like a good way to describe it, but it's a good looking wheel, and it's really rich, and it's a hyper paint. And whenever you've seen a hyper paint, you know that it has a good amount of reflective property to it, but it's a little bit smoked. So it is a good looking finish. Any plans to add any more sizes to 70.1 to 73.1? Oh,
I feel like we have that.
for the S2000. I thought we did too. Did I miss?
I could have sworn we.
I'll
have to look.
Luis,
whole
if you're watching, Luis, see if I missed something there. But I will we'll look into that. And maybe just either we missed the size or whatever. But we will look into that for you.
How did you determine which sizes to make on its initial release? Are these plans to make more options available? Are there plans to? Sorry, I forgot how to read.
I understand. How do we make sizes? So, actually, it's not that hard. I mean, we know what our popular patterns are, and our wheels and which cars kind of roughly go along with them. So that's where we started. If there's ones that we miss, we can easily add them. That's not really a difficult thing. But for the most part, we started with the stuff that we felt was the most popular for what we would sell. But doesn't mean that we won't add more. Like I said, that's totally possible. You know, look, I want to. Let's see. Kona could be the first wheel manufacturer to ever make their home and hub Centric Rings. I always find them on eBay, but those tabs on yours are very nice. Chris,
hey.
I am so glad that you brought that up because that
segue.
is the perfect thing. First thing is, let me quickly, Chris, I want to talk about that exact point. So that's a super awesome comment to answer. First thing is, I want to talk about the difference between plastic and aluminum. I think this is open already, right? Because this feels a little.
We opened all of them.
Yeah. So all right. So let's talk about. First off, let me show you our aluminum hub ring. I gotta wait because I think oh, there we go. So our aluminum hub ring. I don't know if you could see this. Alex, can you go to the clip? Alex will show you a clip real quick. We made this nifty little box. It's pretty nifty, and we hope you enjoy it.
Of the box.
Right, more B-roll of the box. But here's the thing about the box.
Here we go. Wait, no, it's coming out. There we go.
Yeah, look at those rings, baby. Look at them. They glisten. So it's a powder-coated black aluminum ring, and it's got laser inscribed coating on it. Obviously, it also has the size on it. So, just in case you happen to have multiple sets. I know for me, like people say, oh, why is it necessary?
Yeah.
Listen, here's the thing. For me, I'm a guy that I work on a lot of different cars, and sometimes I'll own multiple cars. And when I get parts and when I swap things around, like you may have a wheel that's 5.5 that will work on a multitude of different cars, and you may swap them between your cars.
Right.
Like that happens to me quite a bit, and you may find out that when you go between, let's say a 5.5 Honda and a 5.5 Nissan, that the hub board changed, right?
Yep.
So you're gonna want to you may have these rings thrown on your bench. Well, having them on your bench is great, but having to measure them every time is a pain in the butt. So we made sure that we put that we inscribed all our hub rings, and even on our plastic rings, they actually say the center bore size in there. Where is it? Right here.
Oh, here.
So what happens is on the plastic ring on the inside diameter here, you'll see on this inner taper, it says 5410. In addition, all of our rings are color-coded. So what's interesting about the color-coded rings is that they're color-coded by the inside hub diameter, meaning that if we make multiple rings in 54, 0.1, they'll all be yellow, right? If we make, and we do, this is a good example.
Yeah, it's a great example because we do have two different ones.
So,
this is
yep.
73.
That's 73 to 5710. So this would be a ring that you would use to go from the back of one of our wheels down to, let's say, a Volkswagen. Okay. But now this ring, you might notice, is also green. And the reason they share green is because the inside diameter of this ring is also 5710. But the difference here is that this goes from 66.5. I know you can't see this, but there's 66.5 written on it. Take my word for it. This goes from 66.5 down to 5710. So some of the wheels you may find out there, they're drilled 66.5 or 66.56, and you may want to be able to also put these on to from, like, let's say an Audi wheel that goes down to
I was
a
going to say, you
Volkswagen.
can see the difference in thickness.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, different
So
size.
there's that.
Yeah. So, but anyhow, so you know for a fact that the inner bore diameter of these rings, both the rings, that's yours,
Yeah.
they're exactly the same. So when you get a plastic ring from us, they come in this nifty little bag. They say what size they are, what the vehicle hub size is. It has a cute little Koenig logo. You know, I mean, nothing crazy, but right, it's like in a bag. And the aluminum obviously comes in this box, and it's packaged differently, and we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about the plastic versus metal thing.
Okay, sure.
You've heard me in videos say before, we've talked about hub rings. We have a great video that's actually called Got Hub Rings or something like that. Listen, let's not overcomplicate this, but in the sense, you've heard me say before that 99% of the time it's advisable, and we recommend that you use a plastic hub ring.
Not metal.
Not metal. So immediately you're saying, well, why did you make a metal aluminum hub ring? Well, let's talk about the plastic. First thing is, you have to understand that whenever you put two different types of materials together, two different metals, you're more likely to have corrosion, right? So if you put an aluminum with a steel, or aluminum with a different type of aluminum, or just different things, you're going to have this more, it's more apt to develop a corrosive, material in it.
I mean, that's chemistry. That's science.
Right. Science. But with science, also comes along the stuff that you know. Like, look at your intake manifold if it's aluminum. Look at your fuel rail if it's aluminum. Look at, suspension parts if they're aluminum. If you've had a car that's pretty old, you'll know that you have that white stuff that builds up. When that happens between the aluminum wheel and the aluminum ring, I promise you that if you leave them on the car for long enough, this will turn into your biggest nightmare. They won't come off the car, And the way that you go about making that better is to coat the ring generously, nicely, with anti-seize. And that is the way. But look, these are more expensive. This is a much higher quality ring as far as maintaining its shape and dealing with heat dissipation and different things like that.
But what's the real reason to use that over plastic?
Right.
I haven't really.
That's where we're gonna go. But I want to. But so now the plastic
I'm
ring.
jumping the gun.
Oh well, not really. You were cued well. The plastic ring doesn't have any of that corrosive property. It's always going to be perfectly fine. Bill Nye the Science Guy. It's always going to be perfectly free of corrosion, and because of that, when you put this in the back of your wheel and you put the wheel in your car, you're not going to have any issues. You don't have to coat this with anti-seize. It's not going to have any. It's just a more problem-free for people 99% of the time.
Yeah.
But let's go to the 1% because you brought it up before.
There's always the 1%.
There's always a 1%. The reason you would use an aluminum hub ring is for the people that are going to be using them in motorsport, that are going to have incredibly high braking temperatures, that are going to be transmitting heat from their brakes through to the wheel area, to that hub area, that could potentially have an issue where the ring starts to melt or distort. Now, I will back up a comment that I made before. You've heard me on other videos say things like, now, even at that, it's not always a problem, and here's why. When you take a plastic ring and you put it in the back of your wheel, there will not be any play. It's perfectly sized. And the reason is because if it's not perfectly sized, it's not hub-centric. Like, if there's slack in it, yeah, right. It's no good. So the ring will not have space available. It won't have any slack there. And what happens here is that when you have this in the back of the wheel and you heat the darn thing up, there's no space for it to really deform. So for the most part, if you had some heat there for this friendly, spirited driver, let's hypothetically say you got on the Autobahn.
In Mexico.
You got on the Autobahn in Mexico. and you took your car out and you did this whole thing, and you know the ring did get hot or start to have some whatever. For the most part, if you didn't take the wheel off, whatever, as it cools, it would retain its shape, sort of. Now, again, we're not talking about you got up to 1,000 degrees, and then or higher, and then you left your wheel. I mean, we get it. 99% of the people will never have a problem with a plastic ring, and a lot of people that argue that, well, whatever. The other person that could benefit from having an aluminum ring would be somebody that will frequently take wheels on and off their car. And that's just because this ring will take abuse, just from the nature of, again, all the weight is in your arms when you're putting the wheel in the car. So you're going to naturally hit this thing into the lip of the hub, and over time you'll develop, it'll take some whatever. So in theory, I can argue that an aluminum ring won't do that if you're constantly taking your wheels off the car.
In general, they're built to last, though. That's
Yeah,
the
they're
idea.
not going to deform or shape, and they do dissipate heat very well, and they're not going to get anything. So that's where these come into play. But and obviously and then there's the person that wants to do everything over. I'm that guy. I do everything 100% over than it needs to be because I want it to be the best of the best or the strongest of the strongest. Right?
He's a little OCD.
A little bit. And so in that case, these rings will have a much longer longevity.
There you go.
But with the aluminum rings, and we made a video that's on our YouTube channel right now that speaks about this explicitly, and that has to do with the ability to install these correctly. So we have that video on our YouTube channel right now where we talk about these rings. We talk about the correct installation. We talk about the aluminum rings. We talk about their correct installation. And really here, it's really a matter of applying some anti-seize, a coating of anti-seize on the inside of the ring and on the outside to make sure that is the barrier for corrosion buildup between the wheel and then the hub.
Can I just say personally, I just love how they sound, like when they drop or when they hit each other. It's
great. So if you don't have a car, but you just want nice noises.
There you go. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Conic hub rings.
It's just, it's got
Feels good.
substance.
It feels good. Now, let's talk about the plastic ring for a second. Plastic rings, when they're regular, I think I have a set. Hold on. Here's a set of regular rings. We're opening them. We're going open. This is a regular ring. And in fact, let me get the same size ring here.
So we don't get confused, I'll put this away.
Let's do that. So this ring right here, this is a 5710. So this is a 73 to 5710. This ring here, again, 73 to 5710. So what's the difference? Well, you can see that there's one that has a different shape. Obviously, right here. Alex, see if you can find the clip where we talk about the tension tabs. These babies right here, these are tension tabs. Now, let me show you what the tension tabs really do. The tension tabs are those little areas right here that are sticking out.
Here we
right
go.
There we go. And basically what they're designed to do is actually apply outward tension so that when you push this ring into the back of the wheel, it stays there, and it really clicks in very well.
You could see it right on the video.
Yeah.
It clicks in and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and it doesn't go anywhere. And when you go to put that wheel in the car, even if you tip the wheel, any degrees downward or whatever it is, that ring will stay perfectly in the wheel and it won't fall out on you. Now, I can tell you from just years of doing wheels and tires and constantly swapping my wheels that when I use a regular hub ring that doesn't have tension tabs, this is a pain in the butt. This thing falls out all the time.
Yep.
And it just slips right out of the wheel, and then I got to put the wheel down, go get the ring. Most of the time
It's under the car.
This
somewhere.
ring has rolled across the garage or rolled under the car,
Yep.
and now I gotta get a broom handle. And
Yeah, or if you're in Astoria, of course, it rolls all the way into the street and
or
you're
into the drainage ditch, right? Or into your drainage ditch.
God.
But bottom line is, these tension tabs will keep this ring perfectly into the wheel so that they won't fall out. And when you're taking your wheels on and off the car, this will be something that you will appreciate 1,000 times over. So again, are we reinventing the wheel? No pun intended. No, but if you're gonna have to buy a set of hub rings, I promise you, these are really quality built hub rings. They're really nice. These tension tabs make a big difference. And if you're looking for a good set of aluminum rings and that you're going to properly install, then these are them. And especially whether you have our wheels or not, these are universal items, universal parts, and you can use them. You can use them in any brand wheel that you have, as long as the diameters and the specifications align.
There you go.
Let's see if we have any questions here. 45. So 45.1 to 73. Will thick hub rings have a better chance of survival in motorsport? What hub is 45? I know 54. But what's 45? Burnt chicken nugget. That's his name. I promise you.
Yeah.
Burnt chicken nugget. Tell me what you mean. What car is 45.1? Help me.
Help you.
School me on this one. But will a thicker plastic ring have a better chance of survival in motorsport? I really don't know. The truth is, I would assume that when you transmit heat through a hub, if you have that high of braking temperatures, that you would distort plastic or cause plastic to melt, that the extra thickness of plastic isn't really going to change too much. Sorry, 54.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So anyhow, I'm going to say to you, if you're really using the thing, if you have experienced really high braking temperatures and you've ever had an issue with a plastic hub ring, that's when you want to go to aluminum. Just go to aluminum.
And what? It's an extra $10 per ring, right?
I think for the
So
for the aluminum, not per ring, per set.
Per set. Sorry.
Yeah, per set. Yeah, I mean, again, a set of aluminum hub rings, you're looking at about $20. Again, on
we don't sell those.
Not these, but this one on a plastic ring. Again, the quality ring. You're probably looking at about $13, $14, something like that. Some are even a little cheaper. Some are like $9.99. So again, a few dollars difference, but really not crazy. Like if you want a set of aluminum rings, we give them to you pretty affordably, and they're quality rings, spec'd out, and again, they'll work in any wheel where the center bore is 73.1 for the most part.
So I'm just looking at the screen here. Chris Cloud says Suzuki Cappuccino. I assume he's talking about if there are any hub-centric rings we make that will fit that. I would say probably Google.
I don't remember what a cappuccino center bore. It's small, I think.
Well, the cars are tiny, so yeah.
Yeah. So Chris, if you remember what size the hub is, let me know.
Or you know what? I'll Google it. I got a phone.
All right.
Why not?
Jared's phone works sometimes too. He's gonna.
We're still on.
Okay, well,
it literally gives us color bars.
If you have questions, I suggest you put them in right now because this whole show could come down in a ball of fire moments from now.
Talk about a call to action.
Make it happen. Get those questions in. Anyhow, if you're with us and you don't subscribe to our channel right now, please subscribe because I may lose the opportunity to ask you to do so later. With all of that said, I have used a set of aluminum hub rings a few different times. They're metal. They're false alarm. So I've used a set of aluminum hub rings multiple times. Oh, it says and they're back. We were gone.
Oh Jesus.
Oh Scott, we didn't know we were gone.
We missed you,
so
Scott.
Tragic. Sometimes doing this podcast is the most depressing thing that happens during my day.
You know, it's the middle of the week. We're supposed to like start getting pumped for Friday.
Hump day takes on a new definition when we get to these podcasts. Listen, so here's the thing. We have been struggling with internet. We have an internet service provider that feels that internet, when you pay for it, is an option. And anyhow,
Scott keeps giving us the updates on when we're back and when we leave.
thank you, Scott. You don't understand. For our production here, we appreciate it. Again, first time he disappeared when he was going to look up Cappuccino centerboard.
Oh,
All right.
man.
I'm going to recap. This is going to happen. I'm going to go very quickly, so stay with me here. And also, let me start saying this. If you have questions, put them in now, because we probably will lose the opportunity to ask you to do this later. Also, if you want to subscribe, if you haven't, that would be really helpful. I appreciate it.
We're going to have to do a frequently asked questions
all right.
episode on this.
So here's how it goes. 67.1. Yes, we have the ring. Here's the aluminum ring. It's proof that we have it. Here it is, 67.1. So Cappuccino, you're covered if you want to go both plastic or aluminum. As far as rings go, you'll like these tension tabs. They're really good. They hold the ring in the wheel. And somebody asked a question before about the heat dissipation of a thicker plastic.
Thicker plastic, yeah.
And the answer to that is going to be no. I would imagine plastic has very little heat. Well, plastic does have very little heat dissipation property at all. And because of that, going with a thicker plastic, I think, would just cause more of a mess, not necessarily any really added benefit. And we're not
thicker metal.
Well, right. So metal does have a heat dissipation property. So if you, in theory, had a thicker metal, that would obviously dissipate more heat. I think it's very marginal. So I wouldn't worry about that. But if you're going to be using it in motorsport or taking your wheels off the car, frequently, then I would absolutely go with an aluminum hub ring. Just continue to make sure that you continue to coat the ring inside and outside with a coating of anti-seize, and make sure that if you're going to be taking your wheels off the car quite a bit, that every once in a while you wipe the ring down clean, put on some new anti-seize, because the one thing that will happen with anti-seize is it builds up of dust, debris, sand, different things, and it will actually make it tough to get the. I don't know if we're ever on it. If you have more questions,
this is ridiculous.
Oh, now we see the color swaps on the live stream. Listen, we got. We're going down hard. Listen.
Poor Alex.
All right. Listen, we're getting out of here. If you have any more questions, tune into the live stream. Oh,
wow.
It's bloody. We're bloody. The card's red. The capture card's red.
Oh, what is going on?
Anyhow.
It looks like we're back. Maybe we are. Maybe we're not. Who knows?
We're not sure. Thanks for tuning in. We hope we didn't. This is great. Thanks, guys. Oh, Scott, I think you're talking about your. It is awful. What an awful time here. Anyhow, if you're in the New York area and you happen to have the same service provider we do, I suggest you change services right now. Anyhow, with that said, if you have any more questions, you can either always hit us up or tune in to one of our live streams that happens on Instagram and Facebook at 2 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. You can come back here next Wednesday. Hopefully we have internet by then, and we will be happy to do a little Q&A session. We have a guest next Wednesday. You'll like it. It's another popular automotive company, and they're coming in here to talk about some cool things.
And I bet you anything his internet service is a lot better than ours.
Yeah, probably. So that's the deal. Listen, I'm not saying you have to go buy Koenig hub rings. I'm just saying that it wouldn't hurt. You know?
I'm trying so hard not to laugh.
If you're going to buy hub rings, go to store.koenigwheels.com. We'll catch you later. Just take care.
Peace out.
What was that?